Hey everyone, it's Scott Norris here. Today I'm going to have a look at PKS, installing it from start to finish, essentially. Now what I'm not going to cover is the NSX installation within the environment, because that's really dependent. Now I've just got it in running in a nested environment at the moment, just testing a few things out. Now the PKS install is actually really well documented at the Pivotal website. So it has everything you need to know, but it does come across very daunting, as there is a lot to it, but there actually isn't that much to it, especially if you're only focusing on the installing the vSphere with NSX-T, right? Because this is all we're really caring about within here. So I'll be referring to some of the stuff that's in the doco, especially when it comes to certificate registration, but let's step through the process and to get a base install for a POC. I wouldn't recommend what I'm about to show you for a production instance, but let's see how we go. So first off, obviously we have to choose our PKS topology. Now there's a number of different topologies. Now the first one being we have PKS with our management in physical VLAN, meaning we have our Ops Manager, our Bosch, our PKS API, Harbor, sitting on the same network as our vCenter and NSX Manager. And then all the PKS clusters that it creates are all in NSX-T. Now, we can then go the other way, which is the way I recommend, and that's to actually have your PKS services within an NSX-T network. And I'll show you why in a minute. Now these can be NATed or routable. Now, and that's really where the topology comes in. You can have this topology NATed, you could have this topology routable, but I'd recommend not using NAT, only because NAT adds an extra layer of issues for network connectivity and whatnot, and you know, you've got enough addressable spaces that you could use within your own environment that you shouldn't need to do the NATing. But again, that's more of an architectural decision, depending on how large your environment's going to be and your other network restrictions and requirements. But I recommend going routable, just because it is a hell of a lot easier to troubleshoot if anything goes wrong. And now, why I recommend that we do it this way is because then we work our way into a cookie cutter solution like what's been shown here, is that we can then stamp out multiple PKS instances without having to worry about any overlap. So as you can see there, that's similar to how I've got my my lab set up at the moment, but where I'm only running a single one, obviously. But you can start to see that you can then stamp these out in an automated approach, and that becomes really powerful, obviously. Alright, so once we've chosen our topology, we then move into, okay, well, we need to create those networks. So let's go to NSX, and straight off the bat, we want to create, I've already got pre-existing ones in here because I've got one running up already, so I'm actually deploying another PKS instance. So we can go, I want to add in here, and I want to add that's what we would call it. We'll call it PKS management, and we go YT for YouTube video. Then we go YouTube. And transport zone, uplink, that's fine, leave that all the same. Not using VLANing. And we go add. Cool. So what I'm actually going to go here, and I'll change it now, is make that as logical switch. LS. Alright, now we need our PKS services. So they're the two networks that we want. If we go back to that image that we had, So I want PKS services, YouTube logical switch, and I've got the 2 transports, but I'm just doing normal. No, done. Cool. Alright, so I've got both of them. Now what I need to do is obviously add T0 router for those. So we go into here, we'll add not T0, sorry, T1. We'll go PKS management, YouTube logical router. We go T0, existing T0, existing edge cluster, and I've got my edge cluster members. Add. Alright, and then we'll add another one for my PKS services, YouTube and logical router, the T0, T1, and my groups. Alright, cool. Create those 2. Now I'll find them. So I've got these 2 here, and I'll go into them, and I've got to add the router ports. So we add one here. So we go PKS management, YouTube router port, and strict logical switch. So we choose that logical switch. So all those PKS ones you can see are all dynamically created ones. Management logical switch, IP address. So the management will be 10.60.24/24, and that, and the name of the switch port is PKS management YouTube switch port, and add that. Okay, now what I also will do, we'll go into router advertisement and make sure that we're advertising the rules. Alright, now we go to our services logical router here, and we do the same. So we add the router port, we go PKS services, YouTube router port, logical switch, attach a new switch port, PKS services, YouTube switch port, and the IP will do 10.60.25.0.1/24. Alright, that looks okay. And again, we configure our route advertisement. Alright, sweet. So hopefully, if I should be able to, 10.60.24.1. Cool. Alright. So I can now ping those, which is great. Now what I've got to do is create a load balancer pool. So they're down in inventory and groups. Don't ask me why they're there. I was a bit lost when I was trying to find them originally. Now I'm just going to reuse one I've already created. There's no point in me creating another one. But as we can see here, they're very simple. They're a name and then the subnets that you want to use. So we can see here, this is going to be what PKS uses for the load balancing IPs for the pods and services. So nice and easy, that one is. And then we go into IPAM, up in networking, and we want to create 2 pools. Now we can see we've got these here, but I'm actually going to add additional ones. So let's add PKS YouTube IP block for nodes, and the CI/CDR for that one will be 172.31.0.0/16. So this is important because you need a minimum of a /16, because every time you deploy a PKS cluster, it's going to use one of those IP blocks. And if we can have a look at these ones that I've got here, we'll be able to see the subnets that are created there. So which means that, you know, when we create a new Kubernetes clusters and all the rest of it, these are the ones that it uses for the nodes for the Kubernetes clusters, and the pods are what it does when it deploys all the pods. So these are for your namespaces and everything else. So, you know, they'll fill up pretty quickly, so you need a /16 at a minimum. And we'll create a new one. So let's create another new one, and we'll go PKS YouTube IP block pods. And for this one, we 172.32.0.0/16. Alright. Cool. So that is it as far as getting the prereqs ready and done. Obviously the NSX-T install is very important, and I've had a number of customers of mine who have gone and done PKS without NSX on vSphere, and then they've actually, and even though I said, look, you know, it's going to make your life easier, they've actually come back and said, no, we try to do it, and it is way easier with NSX. So, and it is, you got to just take my word for this. So the NSX-T install is probably the biggest prerequisite that you require, but it's not a requirement, definitely a recommendation, but that's pretty much it right now. Now obviously there is installing the kubectl, the PKS CLI, the Bosch CLI on a separate Linux box, if that's what you want to do. That's all in the doco. I'm not going to cover the install of those because they're just copying down files and you're just calling them. So it's not nothing important there. Alright, so we've got that. Now what we've got to do is actually deploy our Bosch for vSphere, our ops manager. So let's go to vSphere. I'll install deploy from OVA. So this is the nice easy bit. We'll go local file. Here's my pivotal. Okay, so I've got Bosch vSphere 2.4, so that's the latest one. Build that out. Next. Ops manager, YouTube. Next. PKS, yep. Alright, next, select storage. So go on my Optane drive, theme provision, next, network. So I want to put this on the PKS management that we already set up. So there's services. Where is the other one? PKS management. There it is. So we want to put it on that one. Next. Now we give it IP address. So in this one, so our PKS management was 10.60.24, and I'll make this .11. Subnet mask 255.255.0. Gateway will be 10.60.0.1. Oh, not .0. .24.1. DNS, so my local one, which is 10.0.0.24. NTP server. What is it? au.pool.ntp.org. And admin password, so just set whatever admin password is. I don't do the SSH. And custom host name, I'll just leave it at that. Go next and finish. So that will install. Now while we're waiting, there's two additional, I guess, prereqs that you need. So first off, when you install NSX by default, it has its host name in the certificate. Now, if you're doing this within your enterprise organization, you're going to have a proper enterprise cert. So this is a step you probably won't need to do, but you have to set a new cert for NSX Manager. So PKS, Ops Manager, requires a strict certification. It needs either IP or fully qualified domain name set in the certificate. So within the PKS, you can see here that it has registering NSX management certificate. So this takes you through the CA cert. Now, if you're doing it within a home lab, you're going to have to do this. And I'm not going to cover this specific one today, but it's as simple as, for me, well, actually, let's cover it. I just went into trusts within here, which is a lot easier than what the doco says. You go into your certificate signing request. Now, this is the one I made previously. So you generate your CSR there, and you'd, this is, for example, would go YouTube example, common name, we'll go NSX manager.virtual.com.au, organization, VME, IT, locality, ACT, that's state, let's just go Canberra, ACT, country, Australia, RSA 20, done. I'll go generate. That'll generate a signing request. And you can download it, or you can then self-sign the CSR. So when that happens, you can then either import the certificate if you want to download it, and we can see there that there's that certificate that I made previously. Then you've got to do one additional step, and that's actually setting it as the cert, so the one that pops up here as part of your certificate. So we can see here that's the one I generated within NSX, but you've got to then follow, and again I'll go back to this only because I don't want to redo it, is that you've got to import, you got to register the certificate here. So you've essentially just got to do this, and that's it. So all these steps above is how you generate the certificate using OpenSSL or a bunch of other ways, but then you've got to register it. So this has to use the API to then set that certificate as the CA cert for NSX. So anyway, that needs to be done. But again, if you're in enterprise org, the chances are you've already got a proper cert on there, and this doesn't need to be done. The second thing we need to do is we need to create our super user certificates. So for that, now again, we can see here, that's right there, they got multiple ways to do it. Now I use a script to do this. Now the script is available actually as part of this documentation. You're just going to have to make some changes. So as we can see here, I've got create certificate. So let's have a look at create certificate.sh. We can see here that I've put in my NSX Manager IP address, I've put in the username, I've put in what the PI, so this is the principal identity that we want. So what I'm actually going to do here is just type in YT. I've been using that for the YouTube demo there. That means I want to put here as well, YouTube demo. Okay. YouTube demo. Sweet. Now it's going to prompt me for the password when I run it, and then it's going to do everything else. So that's all I need to do. So if I save that and I actually run this and go print, do it, boom, put the password in for NSX Manager, and there you go. It's generated that for me now. So if I do LSL, I'll be able to see there's my 2 certs. You know, great. Now what I need here is this ID. So I need the ID of this cert. So I copy that. Now if I actually go back to NSX Manager right now, do a refresh of the certificates, there it is. So there's our cert, and you can see that it's currently not valid, which is fine. Now we go back to our box, and there's another one to actually set this as a principal identity. So I can go, let's have a look at it. Okay, and again, NSX Manager, username, and certificate ID. So that's where we need to put the new certificate ID. Now obviously you could probably make a more intelligent script than this if it's something you're going to be doing a lot of, but since I don't deploy PKS environments every day, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Now certificate ID, cool. PKS, so that's not what I want to call it. It's YouTube demo, and we can see that the YouTube demo there, and YouTube demo. Cool. And that should be everything. So we save that. Make sure that, yeah, that's all it. And we can run that. Oh. Put that in, hopefully, cool. All right, so now if I go into users, and there it is. So we've now set the super user and given it access via that certificate with the YouTube demo. And that's it that needs to happen. So we just need to wait for our Ops Manager to install. And then we can move on to configuring PKS and Ops Manager. Anyway, that's it for, I guess, the Pre-Reqs video for PKS. Check out the next video for the, the actual installation configuration of Bosch and PKS. And then finally, there'll be another one about using PKS. Anyway, cheers, see ya.